Hey guys, welcome to Sports Talk Today with Pat. Today we're going to be doing a little bit something different where I will be talking about my guesses for the NFL season and where everybody will shake out to be, such as records and who will make it to the playoffs. I don't have very many guesses for who will make the Super Bowl. I'll give my opinion on who might make it, but we will get there when we get there. Not a lot of NBA content today just because I'm not really going to be covering NBA Summer League. I'll leave that to more of the professionals who actually scout people out. I'm just a simple guy who gives his opinion on sports. So, okay, let's get into it. So, I have it up here, but as you can see, I have my AFC and NFC, and we'll just go by each division and how I have things shaken out. So to start off, we have the AFC East. I have Miami in first place in the division, Buffalo, the New York Jets, and then New England. So the big thing with this division is I think that Miami can win it. They have the fourth best roster in the entire NFL currently. And I think with that and if Tua stays healthy, I would say that this team can definitely make it to the first of their division. Next up, we have Buffalo. So I have Buffalo actually going second in this division, and that's because I don't see how Buffalo does very well this season after the whole Stefon Diggs drama with him thinking he needs more receptions, when in actuality he gets most of the receptions of that team, if not all of them. I think also losing Leslie Frazier and Brian Daboll. We watched last season Josh Allen regress a lot compared to how he was doing in the beginning of the season. So I just don't see this team doing very well, but I do see them making the playoffs. So I'll just go ahead and explain what the red and yellow means. Sorry for not doing that earlier, but the red, and to me, the red is the hardest divisions I think there is in the NFL. Like who can come out of it, and the yellow is all the playoff teams I think are going to be it. So to get back to it, the next up we have the New York Jets. So New York Jets just recently signed Aaron Rodgers, big trade. Green Bay Packers sent Aaron Rodgers over to the Jets. So I don't see the Jets doing too well. I actually don't think they'll make the playoffs. I think Aaron Rodgers behind a bad line won't be able to do well in a great AFC conference. I just don't see how Aaron Rodgers with a bad line plus a defensive head coach, which he's never had before, plus being in the best division, one of the best divisions in the AFC, not to mention the NFL. And he's always been not a great comeback from behind quarterback, usually in like the fourth quarter, stuff like that. So I'm not seeing the Jets make it to the playoffs. And I just don't see where Aaron Rodgers falls. If he doesn't make it to playoffs, is he gonna try to leave the Jets? Who knows? Next up, we got the New England Patriots, my favorite team. I'm not thinking that they're gonna do well this year. I think Bill Belichick, even with Bill O'Brien being the offensive coordinator for Mac Jones, he might do better. But I don't think with a defensive head coach in this league at this day and age, I just don't see how they do well. And I think they're going to be a 7 to 10 team, so below 500. Okay, moving on to the AFC West. So this is going to be a division that I feel like I didn't want to put it as the hardest division to get out of, even though honestly it might be. I just didn't want to put so many hard divisions in the AFC, even though a lot of them are hard to get out of. So obviously I have Kansas City at the top going 14-3. I think Kansas City will go back to obviously the conference finals. I also think they could make it back to the Super Bowl, but I think Cincinnati will be able to beat them out to get to the Super Bowl. We'll see. I do have Cincinnati also make it to playoffs like Kansas City, but I just don't. I don't see them being able to make it back to the Super Bowl this year. So we'll see how it turns out. But I think Cincinnati can actually make it to the Super Bowl this year. I'll talk about that a little more later. Next up, we got Denver. I think Denver will do a lot better than they did last year. Obviously, the whole Nathaniel Hackett fiasco, along with Russell Wilson looking like he's washed. I think he'll do a lot better this year with the offensive head coach, plus a really good O-line. And just, I think Sean Payton can really fix the entire Broncos organization, honestly. So we'll see how that goes. Fun fact, I actually had an argument with my dad earlier about this. I think he was saying how Denver is just overhyped again. I do see that, but I also understand that Denver, with an offensive head coach in this day and age, in this league, can do a lot better than they did last year. Next up, we got the Chargers. So I have the Chargers going 10-7, but I have them missing the playoffs, and that's because I believe that Pittsburgh is going to take that spot in the wild card, and Jacksonville will obviously be making it to the playoffs also. And I think Buffalo, Denver, and Pittsburgh are all going to be taking those spots. So Los Angeles, I think, will not make the playoffs, and Justin Herbert will not look as good maybe this year. He does have Kellen Moore that does make me want to switch these around, but I just can't. It feels to me like I can't put the Chargers above Denver right now. Maybe I switch out Buffalo and Los Angeles of making the playoffs, and maybe Buffalo misses the playoffs, but I just cannot put the Chargers above Denver at this moment. And last, we have Las Vegas. Jimmy Garoppolo is sounding like he's going to be hurt at the start of the season. They have Jarrett Stidham. They don't have Jarrett Stidham. They have hold on, guys. Let me look it up real quick. Sorry, the Raiders. All I know is Jimmy Garoppolo. Brian Hoyer, that's his name. Holy crap. I knew he used to play for the Patriots. Anyway, sorry about that. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be hurt at the beginning of the season, and then Brian Hoyer is going to be starting, and I don't think Brian Hoyer is that good. So he's old. He's kind of washed up. He's more of a backup, perennial backup at this point. So I think the Las Vegas Raiders are going to go 4-13 and get a really good pick in the draft. So we'll see how that goes, but there's no way I'm putting them higher than 5 wins at this point. Next up, we got the AFC North. So Cincinnati, I think Joe Burrow, this is the year that he can make it to the Super Bowl and win it. And the reason I say that is because I think it might either be, like I said, we're going to get more into it later, but San Francisco and Philadelphia, I think Joe Burrow can beat either of those teams. So we'll see. So I have Cincinnati winning their division, going to the playoffs 13-4. Joe Burrow coming back with Jamar Chase. I think they can do really well this year. Obviously, they did really well last year, but they kind of stumbled a little bit once they got to the AFC Championship. So hopefully this year they can surpass the Chiefs and make it to the Super Bowl again like they did against the Rams. Next up, I got Pittsburgh making to the playoffs, going 10-7. I think Kenny Pickett this year will make a big jump into being a starting quarterback and being a much better starting quarterback than he was last year. I think that he'll be so good that he will even be out Lamar Jackson. I do not know how Lamar Jackson will do this year with injuries and things like that. Who knows? Again, I think I could honestly switch Baltimore and Pittsburgh, but we'll just have to see. So next up, we have Baltimore. Lamar Jackson and his injuries kind of scare me. That's kind of why I put him at third here. And it's because I think either Lamar will get injured, OBJ will get injured. It honestly depends. Mark Andrews is the only star on that team who has not gotten injured, or has not had a severe injury, I should say. So with that going into the season, and Lamar had just now gotten paid this last offseason, I don't see how Baltimore can do really well this year, because if he does get hurt again, he's going to realize he has money. He's not going to want to hurt himself further, I guess. Um, Next up, we got Cleveland. So Deshaun Watson obviously has a lot off the field stuff, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. So just go into the NFL and football part of it. But I don't think the Cleveland Browns are going to do that well this year. I think that even though Deshaun Watson has gotten a year under his belt, I think that they're still not going to be that great. I think he needs still another year to get back into the groove of the NFL. I've heard all the offseason stuff about how good he looks and all that. We'll see, but I don't think that I don't think the Browns are just going to do that well this year. I think they're going to be last in their division and just not that great. Next up, we got Jacksonville in the AFC South. So biggest thing with this is I think Jacksonville is going to be the only one to come out of this division. I see Indianapolis, Houston, Tennessee all doing terrible this year, just because obviously the Colts and Houston just got new quarterbacks from the draft. Houston with C.J. Stroud, and the Colts with what's his name? Hold up. Anthony Richardson, that's right. Yeah, I just don't see Anthony Richardson or C.J. Stroud doing that well this year. First year in the NFL, we'll see how it goes, but I just don't see him doing too well. So I think Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence is going to come out on top this year, going 10-7, and be the only one out of their division to come to the playoffs. And for Tennessee, I'll just say this. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is going to do too well this year. I think he's going to regress a lot more. And Malik Willis obviously is not going to be a starting quarterback. It looks like they don't trust him, and I don't think Will Levis is going to do too great either if he is thrown into that position. So I have him going 4-13 and also going for a draft pick in the high draft pick this year. So next we got the NFC. So for the NFC East, we have the Philadelphia Eagles coming number one out of their division, and I think they can honestly make it back to the Super Bowl this year, given that San Francisco doesn't bump them off with Brock Purdy if he does play this year. It sounds like he will be playing, though, so I think that it will be a battle between those two. So we'll see. But I have Philadelphia making back to the Super Bowl this year, so obviously top of the division and making it, and honestly top of the NFC. Like, I think they're going to be the best. Next up, we have Dallas. Again, we have the overhyped Cowboys. Now this is a very Dak-dependent team. There's no more Zeke. There's no more Amari Cooper. It's a very bad wide receiving core. Sorry, guys. I think I just lost. Oh, never mind. I think we're still good. Okay. So next up, I got. So sorry. My headset went out for a second, so thought I might have lost y'all. But anyways, so Dallas obviously is very Dak dependent. As I said before, Amari Cooper's gone, Zeke's gone. Really bad wide receiving core. And Tyron Smith is just kind of fading away to dust at this point. I don't think that Dak can carry a team. The best quote I can have from Colin Cowherd is I think Dak is a better Kirk Cousins, or not, sorry, I shouldn't say better Kirk Cousins, a more commercialized Kirk Cousins. He has all the same numbers as Kirk Cousins, except he has a lot more TV commercials. So it's all because of that star on his helmet, and I think based off of that, honestly, I would say Colin Cowherd's right in that opinion. I don't like to take opinions from a lot of people just because I want to make my own, but honestly, I think that's a really good one. Is that Dak just is a kind of mid-level quarterback, probably like a B quarterback, the 12th best quarterback in the league kind of thing. He's not the best, but he's also not the worst. So yeah. Next up, we got the Giants going 6-11. So the reason I did this was because I think Daniel Jones is going to regress this year. I think Brian Daboll kind of squeezed every ounce he could out of him, and now everybody's seeing how Daniel Jones can play. So based off of that, now everybody has tape on Daniel Jones as how good he can be. So now they'll attack everything he's good at, and I think he's going to regress this year. I'm not sure what's happening with Saquon, whether or not they're going to pay him or if they're going to try to franchise tag him. Sounds like they do want to franchise tag him, but it sounds like Saquon's not going to want it. So I think that the Giants are going to be a lot worse this year than they were last year. So we'll see, but I just don't see that team doing very well. And last, we got the Washington Commanders going 4-13. They're entrusting Eric Bieniemy to make Sam Howell into a star. I don't think that's going to happen. I hadn't even heard of Sam Howell until he started last year, and I was like, who is this guy? I guess the same can be said for Brock Purdy, but the difference is I didn't hear about Sam Howell even after he started. So I just don't think that the Washington Commanders are going to do that great this year. They'll probably be in the fight for that top draft pick. Next up, we got the NFC West. So San Francisco 49ers going top of their division. And like I said before, I think they will be the ones to play the Eagles in the NFC Championship game and maybe make it to the Super Bowl. But honestly, I'm kind of looking at Brock Purdy versus Jalen Hurts. I think it's going to be Jalen Hurts, honestly, who's going to win that game and make it back to the Super Bowl. And honestly, I think with the 49ers, one more thing with it is that can honestly be 12-5, 13-4, or 11-6, just because I really don't know how this will work with Brock Purdy's injuries, but I think hopefully Sam Darnold can carry them long enough to where they can at least have a good record and make it to the first of their division. Next up, we got the Rams. So I have the Rams doing a lot better than they did last year. I think the Rams can make it to the playoffs, and I think that with Matt Stafford hopefully being healthy this year and staying healthy, and Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald and all this talent, I think they can do well this year. I don't see them making it past the divisional, though. I think that I just don't see them doing that well. So we'll find out, but I don't see him doing that well to where Matt Stafford can bring him back to the Super Bowl or a championship or a conference championship in that case. Next up, we got Seattle. I have Seattle going 9-8, missing the playoffs. I think last year was a year for Seattle to do really well with the quarterback they had. Gosh, I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, guys. I am just blanking on names today. I've been so invested in NBA, I've just been forgetting. Geno Smith. Wow, I've just been so invested in NBA, I just keep forgetting NFL stuff. Sorry about that. So, Geno Smith obviously did really well last year after being a backup for so long, after starting with the Jets way back when. I don't think Geno Smith is going to have that year again. I think the young stars are now growing up, though, and maybe they'll still be above 500, but I also don't see them make it to the playoffs this year. I think their division is going to be a lot better than it was last year because obviously the Rams did a lot worse last year. So I have Seattle missing the playoffs, but maybe that can change. Again, this is just a guess, but honestly, I think it's possible for the Rams and Seattle to switch just depending on how Geno Smith plays. And last, we got Arizona. I have Arizona going 116. I think Kyler is going to be out, obviously. DeAndre Hopkins is gone. It's just it's a shit show there. If I'm being honest, it sucks. The whole team's ownership is horrible. Like just all kinds of bad in that team. So I'd say 1-16. They're gonna have the first draft pick in the draft. So that's what I'll say for them. Next up, we got the NFC North. I have Detroit winning the division. So, and the reason that is because I think after last year, they pretty much proved to me that they are really good and that they can play really well with Jared Goff, who is a very good uh, Jared Goff, who's a very good just all around passer and thrower of the ball. I think with DeAndre Swift coming back, obviously you have the Jameson Williams thing with the gambling stuff, so we'll see how that goes. But I think they can do really good this year. Next up, we got Minnesota. So, like I said before, I think Kirk Cousins is kind of that mid-level quarterback. He's not that good, but he's also not that bad. I think Minnesota is going to do okay this year. I just don't see them making it very far in the playoffs. Wild card round, getting knocked out there. I just don't see it going too well. So we'll see. And another thing with that actually is I think I could honestly switch Minnesota and Chicago just because, as I'll get to now, I think Chicago can do really well this year with giving Justin Fields all this help on the receiving end. We'll find out, but the only reason I put Minnesota at top is because I think Kirk Cousins is still a better quarterback than Justin Fields is. So I'm going to say that Minnesota's going to make it to the wild card and probably get knocked out there. Last, we got Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love season. I have yet to see tape on Jordan Love and how I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen him practice. I haven't seen anything. Like, how am I supposed to know how good he is? I keep hearing the Packers talk about how good he is, and then I also hear how I should temper my expectations. I honestly think the Packers are going to be pretty bad this year. I think this is going to be a losing season for the Packers, which I'm sure they haven't heard of in a very long time, being they've had Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre before Jordan Love. But I think Jordan Love is not that great. I don't see it going too well. Obviously they did not want to keep Aaron Rodgers, so this is the next best thing is hope that Jordan Love can do great, but I just don't see it happening. So I have Green Bay Packers being last in their division, which is a first for a lot of years. So next up, we got the NFC South. I think this is going to be one of the worst divisions, honestly. And that is because I think Atlanta and Tampa Bay are just going to be terrible, and we'll get to that. But to start off, we have the Panthers going 10-7. I think Bryce Young and Frank Reich can really carry that team over the hump and make it to the playoffs, but obviously they'll probably get knocked out in the divisional. Next up, we had New Orleans going 9-8 with Derek Carr. I don't see how Derek Carr does really well in this division, and I only say that because he has Dennis Allen as a head coach. Dennis Allen is obviously a defensive head coach. Yes, all of the people in the Saints are very good players. You obviously have Cam Jordan, Michael Thomas, Marshall Lattimore. You have all these guys who are really good, but you also have Derek Carr, who's probably a B minus, maybe C plus quarterback, honestly. And you have Dennis Allen, who's a defensive head coach. So this is an offensive league, and we have a defensive head coach for the Saints. That just doesn't really bode well for me, and I think they're going to go 9-8 and miss the playoffs, honestly. Next up, we got Atlanta. I don't see Desmond Ritter doing that well. I think he played a little bit last year. I honestly didn't watch because I don't watch Atlanta Falcons games, but I think that Atlanta is not going to do amazing this year. I think they're just going to be a mid team. I could probably put them higher and maybe make them seven, and sorry, I'm brain farting, guys. 7-10. I could probably do that, but I don't see how the Falcons do well this year. I think they're kind of going to tank a little bit maybe and just kind of try to get a draft pick. But it'll be pretty hard because they have Tampa Bay in their division with Baker Mayfield. I hate Baker Mayfield. I'm glad he left the Browns and the Panthers, but now he's stuck with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I guess felt desperate after losing Tom Brady and didn't trust um, their the backup to Tom Brady. So they got Baker Mayfield, but in that I see them going 2-15 and doing really bad this year and probably getting the second round or first round second pick this year. So that is my rankings and who I think is going to the playoffs and the hardest divisions. Sorry I didn't mention it earlier, but the reason I think the NFC North is the hardest division is just because of all these teams who are kind of like right next to each other in the 11-6, 10-7, 9-8, 7-10, just all kind of next to each other. So it's honestly like up for grabs for Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit. So we'll see, but I think that's honestly the hardest division in the NFC because I really don't think the NFC East is that hard to get out of. I think it's going to be Philadelphia and Dallas. So, but to go into some detail with a lot of these is for my Super Bowl pick. I said earlier I think Kansas City isn't going to do well enough to make it back to the Super Bowl. I think that Cincinnati is that hungry team who wants to get back there. I think Joe Burrow can lift the Cincinnati Bengals back into the Super Bowl and actually win it this year. Though they will have very steep competition because I think either Philadelphia or San Francisco can make it to the Super Bowl. Now, I will say for Philadelphia, it'll be a lot harder. It's obviously very hard to make it back to the Super Bowl the year after you lose. So I'll give that to the 49ers as they have that on their side, and I think Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback if he stays healthy. But if the Eagles do make it back, it'll be a great game. I just think that the Bengals can pull it out this time and win the game. We'll see. I know the Eagles do have one of the best rosters in the NFL, so they do have that going for them. I just don't see how the Bengals let it slip away once again. But then again, I also don't see the Eagles wanting to let it slip away again. So we'll see. But I think for now, this is my until I see any injuries. I'll probably do this again around week 5 and just kind of go from there. But for now, with everything playing out as it is, with all the moves happened and everything that's happened with injuries and training camp and drama and stuff like that, I would call this my list for now. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Yeah, I'll see me right there because I brought it up. But I want to thank everybody for watching, and please do subscribe down here. And if you want to watch some more videos, they should be right here. Okay, thanks.